spectrum and the other side of the pond. The polls will open in the UK in just a few hours in an election where Rishi Sunak will find out if he gets to keep his job as Prime Minister. CTV's Michael Couture is in London tonight.
There are two near-sure things in London these days. Clouds hanging over the capital and a Labour Party victory in Thursday's election. The winds of change are starting to pick up.
We need some new ideas. I'm not sure Keir Starmer's got them, but I definitely think Rishi Sunak hasn't.
Sunak continues to say many ridings remain tight.
We have 24 hours left. We do not surrender to Labour. We will fight for every vote. We will fight for our values.
There's also some analysis showing Keir Starmer leading his party to the largest majority government since 1832.
Our campaign from start to finish has been positive, has been confident, and has been about the change that we need in our country.
Change that could mean the end of 14 years of Conservative governments, which featured COVID-19 lockdown parties, a leader who lasted 50 days, and most recently, a betting scandal around the election call. Now, if the UK does elect a left-leaning party, it would buck a recent trend across Europe, are leaning to the political right.
Why do I hear double?
Why
do I hear double? Oh, I know why. Hold on.
What people are voting against is are kind of very basic questions around cost of living, around access to healthcare.
Taxation has also dominated the political discourse, with Sunak warning the Labour Party wants to raise taxes, even on capital gains.
Oh no, did you guys hear?
That isn't the only parallel to Canada.
They want to raise
One person
taxes.
we spoke with today is predicting tomorrow's election will be similar to what we saw in our country in 1993.
I think we're following the Canadian example of wipeout of the Tories. So we're just following you guys. We're just a couple of decades too late.
Voters here say it comes down to one thing. They want to remove a tired government
Tory government back
power
in
for
Canada.
Too long. Omar.
All right, Mike, thank you.
Omar. Omar.
Welcome back. People in the UK are voting today in a general election that could see the Conservative Party's 14-year reign come to an end. Multiple polls suggest the Conservatives could face a wipeout with the opposition Labour Party on course for a potential landslide win. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now from London with more on this. Good morning, Raf.
Raf, good morning, Raf.
Stephen, good morning. The polls have been open here for about 5 hours on this unusually sunny election day in London. We won't get exit polls until around 5 p.m. But from the voters we are speaking to, every indication is that this is a changed election and that the British public is planning to vote for a new government and a new prime minister.
Pretty clear. Thank you. In the stop. Did he have to say it like that? Why did he say it like that?
Six-week campaign, voting is underway across Britain. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, whose Conservative Party has been in power for 14 years, asking voters for another chance.
Your vote will make a difference.
Welcome back, Drone Pilot.
Conclusion. Analysis shows that's not true.
But with prices high, economic growth low, and 4 Conservative prime ministers in a row forced to resign since the 2016 Brexit referendum that saw the UK crash out of the European Union, many voters here are in an unforgiving mood.
They want to see the Conservatives maybe get...
I mean, they only destroyed the entire economy.
Behaving so badly.
Polls suggest the Conservatives are facing a wipeout.
Good.
And the center-left Labour Party heading for a potentially historic landslide victory. Labour's Keir Starmer poised to become Britain's next prime minister and the leader of America's closest ally.
We've now had 14 years
of
chaos, of division and failure. And
okay, I gotta turn up the volume. Hold on.
Is to bring that to an end, to turn the page and start to rebuild with Labour.
A former prosecutor, Starmer is a political centrist whose policies and politics align with President Biden's. But next year, he may be dealing with a second-term Donald Trump, who's threatened to pull the U.S. out of NATO and cut support for Ukraine. Does Keir Starmer have what it takes to stand up to Donald Trump on the world stage?
I think Keir Starmer will stand up for what he believes in. When it comes to foreign policy, our support for NATO is the cornerstone of that.
We headed to the West London constituency of Kensington and Bayswater, home to one of the country's closest races. The Conservatives won the last election here by just 150 votes. Now, Labour candidate Joe Powell is hoping to flip the seat.
We think this is going to be very close, whatever the national polls show. This is not a traditional Labour seat.
Do you think people are excited
there
about
are
voting
real
for
differences
Labour,
to the
or
Tories.
they just want to punish the Conservatives at this point?
Well, I think a lot of people are very excited about voting for Labour because they're desperate for change in the country.
Some of those looking for
the talking point that their tax policy is going to be very different. Keir has insisted that he's not going to be raising taxes on the middle class over and over and over again. No matter how many times the Tories repeat it, that is a fact. The tax policy right off the bat, the general stance that they have on human rights, like the boats, the boats are not going to be happening. What's the Tory policy? Tax, tax, tax. The Tories have the highest tax policy ever, right? You guys have never had higher taxes. and the new policy is just higher tax, is just more of that on the middle class. And of course this ridiculous national service idea that's not going to happen. That's not going to go anywhere. I'm sorry, Gen Z don't want to do that. So there you go. There's a couple examples, but it doesn't sound like you really care to hear examples. It sounds like you want to justify your Tory vote. So
change are turning to the populist right and the anti-immigration Reform Party led by a British ally of Donald Trump. Polls suggest Reform winning nearly a fifth of the vote. Though the UK's election system means it's unlikely to win many seats in Parliament.
Vote them. I don't give a shit.
Now, unlike the U.S.
Labour
here in the
has
UK,
destroyed
there's no
them.
transition period between an election and a new government taking office. So, assuming the Labour Party wins tonight, Keir Starmer will give his victory speech. He'll sleep for a couple of hours. He will head to Buckingham Palace just down the road to see.
Yeah, I didn't say he wasn't atrocious on Gaza. It took him a long time to call for the ceasefire, et cetera, et cetera. I was pointing out the fallacy in your both sides, right? Because you're over here saying both sides, they're the same, they're the same, oh, they're the same. No, they're not. No, the hell they're not. No, the hell they're not. They're not the same. Oh, they're the same. That's the thing that lazy people say when they don't want to dig, when they don't want to look into the facts, when they don't want to see what the truth is. But it's the same. It's the same. All right. So, look, you want to vote Green, you want to vote the new Labour Party or whatever the hell they are, the new Democrats. They're going to be number 3, it looks like, maybe, if we're lucky. They'll be back to number 3 opposition. So go ahead, vote conscious. Vote your conscious. That doesn't give a shit. But it's not both sides. Welcome back, Quick Double Tap. It's not both sides. They're the same. They're the same. No, the fuck they're not. Sick and tired of hearing that. All right, get a better refrain. Look into it. There is a difference.
The king, and then he will immediately take office as the new prime minister of the United Kingdom.
I gave you 2 examples, and you're like, no, they're the same anyway.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
This is our exercise time. This is our exercise time. So we gotta. He's being squirrely. He's being squirrely, buddy. Demon baby. All right, so we actually have live right here of I guess. I couldn't find anybody really covering this yet. I'm a little early. It's not literally the same. It's not. It's literally not. I mean, there's literally mega differences. Here we go. Let's get some James O'Brien. There's literally major differences.
LBC from Global.
Yeah, okay.
For the next 3 hours. I don't want to labour this point, but I'm also conscious
pun.
that you could be tuning in for the first time today. You could have just turned your radio on.
Fuck it is.
People don't always stay with us for the entire 3 hours, so I will have to explain periodically that we do not discuss anything general election related, because almost anything we mention, almost up to and including the weather, almost anything we mention could conceivably be construed as potentially, whether intentionally or not, as potentially influencing how you vote. And we are categorically not allowed to do that in the broadcast media. The print media is absolutely free to do whatever it pleases in that field this morning. But once the polls are open, we are categorically not allowed to do anything that may influence your vote.
You want to play some drums? Let's play some drums.
Fact fans, trivia fans, Mystery Hour fans, that is why Mystery Hour exists, actually. A Thursday in the dim and distant past dawned with me, possibly for the first time, actually, struggling with the requirement to say nothing about politics and therefore inventing a feature. I think it was my.
What is this nonsense you're talking about, man? Who gives a shit? I want some real coverage here. Here we go. Let's see this. The debate.
What a crazy week of politics. And while the French
voters
here we
ponder
go.
the
temptation
of the
interesting. Far right, across the channel, they're also...
So here's what's going to happen here. I need to go... my son is going to get a really cool thing that's going to help him learn how to walk. It's going to be really great. We're going to get fitted for it. So it's a whole thing. We got to go do that at 12 o'clock, so in 1 hour for me. Then when I come back and, get situated and everything, we'll fire it back up and we'll do some more live UK coverage. It looks like, things are... I'm still kind of waiting for things to pop off. So that's kind of what's going on here. It's kind of a preliminary test stream. As you can see, I got a couple cameras set up. So
campaigning, only there, it feels like revenge of the moderates. Out with Little Britain Brexiteers, out with Jeremy Corbyn's hard left, in with a more genteel version of the Labour Party. Before 2016,
genteel, more like neoliberal.
Britain always seemed like that Isle
more like
of temperance,
corporate.
where sure the tabloid headlines screamed, but that was just a bit of fun.
Genteel.
So what next for Brexit Britain? And the Tories, which have become the party of Rwanda deportation schemes for asylum seekers. Does it too swing back to the center?
There's no difference.
Or does it double down?
There's no difference.
If he wins by a predicted landslide, Labour leader Keir Starmer will have to
there's no difference.
To capture the silent majority that's not radical.
Right.
But for how long? With a platform that's light on specifics, he knows he can't be all things to all people for very long. If Brexit proved a cautionary tale for the continent, then here's one in the other direction. In France, we had a moderate candidate who promised to take on board the best of
Polls
the left
close
and
at
the
10.
best
Okay,
of the right.
great. I got plenty of time.
His name was Emmanuel Macron. Today in the France 24 debate, we're looking at the UK's
if I'm going to stream in the middle of the week, this is how I'm going to have to do it.
Hebden Bridge, that's in the north of England, Jamie Furlong, research fellow at the University of Westminster, author of The Change.
Yeah, just real quick. If this is the only way I can stream during the week, because I gotta during the whole day when I'm not streaming, I'm taking care of the kid, and it's a whole thing, right? So I got to work it into my schedule. So that's what I'm trying to do. Just to get a couple, so we can just keep the ball rolling, keep those momentum going, keep the news underground rolling. Because I know how momentum, if you kill momentum, you stop streams, people stop watching. I get it. Anyway, so let's get back to it here. I'm curious about this debate. Revenge of the moderates. It's more like revenge of the neoliberals, moderates. That's fucking hilarious.
And Wales, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Financial Times columnist Simon Cooper, the author of Good Chaps, How Corrupt Politicians Broke Our Law and Institutions and What We Can Do About It. Good to see you, Simon.
Hi, Francois.
Journalist Julian Nundy is with us as well.
There we go.
And you voted.
I voted. I voted about 2 weeks ago by mail.
This is a novelty for the British abroad.
This is a new law that came in
cool.
January of this year, which allows all Britons living abroad to vote. And this up until now it's been 15 as a 15-year rule. You had to have lived in Britain in the past 15 years. And this law was promised by David Cameron in his 2010 election manifesto, and it took only 14 years to get it into,
you got the drumstick.
Into action.
Julian Nundy, who famously did not vote in the Brexit referendum. No. Florence Fauché, Director of Research at the Center for European Studies at the French
Postal voting, it's great.
Institute Sciences Po.
It's
Thank
great.
you for being with us.
And totally,
You're
it's
voting on Sunday.
fraud-free,
I take it.
you know?
All right. You can
It's
listen, like,
fraud-free.
and subscribe to the France 24 debate on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other fine streaming services. Yeah, it could be Britain's biggest swing of the political pendulum since Tony Blair's New Labour swept to power in 1997. Back then, The Sun famously gauged which way the wind was blowing and endorsed Tony Blair. So it's not a great sign for
maybe I
Rishi
shouldn't say
Sunak
fraud-free.
when the cover of the tabloid on
really
voting
hard
day
to
will read,
defraud.
"Time to change the manager." And in case you don't get it, there's a little bit in parentheses there at the bottom of the screen. And we don't mean sack Gareth Southgate, the manager of England.
Oh,
but watch out, Starmer. It's
got
not over
him.
yet. Boris is back. Former Prime Minister
All right,
Boris
thank
Johnson,
God.
who led the Conservatives to a landslide win last time round in 2019.
Destroyed the
making
fucking
a
country.
surprise appearance at a London campaign
Oven-ready
rally
deal.
for Rishi Sunak Tuesday night.
Is it not therefore the height of insanity, if these polls are right, that we are about to give Labour a supermajority?
Totally justified. You destroyed
which
the country.
They will use to make us nothing but the punk of Brussels.
Yeah.
Taking
What happened to your hair?
law
Where's the
by
bedhead?
dictation with no say on how that law is made.
He's looking a lot
Paying
like
into
Jimmy
Brussels budgets
Savile with the
again.
fucking
You
hair,
watch,
bro.
You watch.
Jamie Furlong,
Yeah, we're not believing it, dog.
What
Get
does
the
he
fuck
mean by
out
a
of government.
supermajority and all this talk
Tired of
about
it.
taking orders from Brussels?
Yeah, I mean, I think the opinion polls at the moment and lots of the statistical models
He's a gamer.
show that Labour are on course to get a huge majority in this election. It could be pretty much the biggest majority since universal suffrage in the UK. So some predictions make it look like Labour maybe win a share of the vote similar to 1997 when Tony Blair was elected. Others see them gaining this kind of super majority where the Conservatives reduced to only around 50,
No
60,
such thing in
70
UK
seats
politics,
in
by the way.
Parliament.
Oh,
Obviously,
no!
326 seats to get a majority, so we're talking about an enormous Labour majority in the British Parliament.
Lights out!
And Boris Johnson there warning against that. Starmer at a rally in Wales commenting on Rishi Sunak's reinforcements.
I've been arguing that the last 14 years have been about chaos and division, and last night they wheeled out the architect of chaos and division. So I think that just shows the sort of desperate negative place
That's
they've
a good
got to
thing
in
to
their
say.
campaign.
That's aggressive.
I'm proud, by contrast, that our campaign
what?
from start to finish has been positive, has been confident, and has been about the change that we need in our country.
Simon Cooper, that message has been hammered home now by Starmer for a long time. Is that the secret of his success?
The only word that matters is change. There's enormous discontent with the Conservatives, which isn't so much ideological, it's more just about competence. I mean, this is the party that gave us Liz Truss's budget, that sent British assets down, that gave us Boris Johnson's unfit to be a Prime Minister spectacle 3 years.
We don't care who it is.
People just, I think, want more sort of trains running on time, basic competence. It's Conservatives are also the party, and this is not discussed, that gave us Brexit. It's not discussed in this election. Neither Labour nor the Tories want to talk about it. But Brexit was another dent in the British economy. The Conservatives' promise until about 2015 is we are the best stewards of the economy. We'll manage it more safely than Labour. That has completely gone. So although Starmer is not promising any particular ideological direction, he's just saying essentially, I'm not the Tories and I will not do stupid things.
I'm not the Tories, and I will not do stupid things.
His budget is really modest.
Specifics, Julian Nundy, when it comes to things like
it depends
the
too much on
National
growth,
Health
though. The
Service,
manifesto.
He
Hey,
doesn't
Smash.
have a lot of money to promise.
Well, this is going to be the big problem: is where's the money going to come from for the necessary reforms? And probably the first thing it needs doing is a good look at the National Health Service, getting it back on track, and reducing the waiting lists, which have now become phenomenal in Britain for routine operations.
People dying in the fucking waiting room.
What's the view?
Welcome back, Smash. It's good to see you.
What do you make of the fact that, as Simon Cooper was saying, no one's talking about Brexit, but of course we watch this election in France, and that's the conclusion we draw, right? That this is the the boomerang effect of Brexit.
It is, but it's also that Brexit is toxic, and the Labour Party is being very careful not to bring it up. And it's much more probably effective for them to actually leave that chance to, or the raising the topic to the Lib Dems. For them, it's better not to be seen to reopen the wound
That's who I
of
was talking
Brexit.
about.
And we have to remember how it has hurt many people in the UK. And as we were saying, this is one of the consequences, the impoverishment of many people. And the fact that the promises that were made at the time, in particular by Boris Johnson, of course, have not been kept. So there's a lot of, I don't think it's necessarily anger this time. There was anger previously, but this time it's more kind of resignation and frustration and a desire to move on.
Right. In 2019, Boris Johnson promised to get Brexit done. In doing so, he got a big majority. He smashed the so-called red wall, that is working class
Everyone's a
constituencies.
blondie.
You can see them in the north of England that always voted Labour. And according to this map, this is a simulation from the month of May, published by the Daily Telegraph. And it points to a YouGov poll that suggests a return of the red wall. Jamie Furlong, you could see the red wall from your window, right? From where you are in the north of England, in Yorkshire.
Interesting.
What's that red wall about? Is that the key to this election?
I think it will be one
the key to the
story
Tories
from this election. I think
not getting wiped out completely.
In 2019, the Conservatives did very well in lots of post-industrial towns in northern England. They almost overreached in those places to win them from Labour. These are places that, have been Labour for generations, often have never been Conservative. Lots of coal mining towns with, lots of kind of cultural ties to the Labour Party. I think at this election, what we're likely to see is the Labour Party are going to definitely regain lots of the seats in the red wall, but the majorities are not going to look like the kind of majorities that they had back in '97 potentially, and definitely not going back into the 70s and 80s.
For our viewers here, because in France, the post-industrial towns that used to vote communist have gone for the National Rally in places like the north, and they've never returned to the left. Why are you saying they may return to Labour this time? What's the difference?
I think part of it is something we've touched upon. In 2019, there was a very clear kind of Brexit
Thank you, quick double tap.
election.
Okay.
A lot of voters in some of the kind of red wall towns, in particular, rather than the cities like Leeds and Manchester, voted Leave. And when the election was framed around Brexit and some kind of disillusionment with Jeremy Corbyn as a leader of the Labour Party, I think that led to a kind of lurch to the right in those areas. I think right now, economically, those places are struggling, and they're looking like a lot of the country for someone to blame. And the party that's been in power for 14 years is, likely to take the flak for the decline of public services in particular in those areas.
Yeah, the party that's
Simon
been
Cooper,
in charge.
in 2019 on election night, Boris Johnson famously told those voters, "I know you're not giving me your vote forever." I'm paraphrasing here. You're lending me your vote. I'm aware of that. Now it could swing it could swing back. But is this going to be volatile, where people in those places far from London vote in coming elections? The future is unwritten when it comes to where working class voters will go. I ask this because I'm looking at the situation, of course, here in France.
I think the big difference with France is that France is now, at the moment UK was in 2016, which is that the offer in 2016 was a nationalist fantasy, Brexit in the UK's case. We'll go it alone. We'll be a great country like we used to be. We don't need all this immigration. We'll tell foreigners what to do. The UK was leaving the EU. The Rassemblement National is merely promising to tell the EU no, no, no a lot of the time. But so the UK tried this nationalist fantasy. 8 years on, it hasn't worked. Nobody feels better off as a result of Brexit. The economy has taken a dent. Public services are not better. The promise there'd be more money for the National Health Service turned out to be the opposite. There's no money for the National Health Service. So the British are now returning to a much more kind of cautious, low promises, traditional government. France is possibly about to take the dive into a nationalist fantasy and may then, with regret,
The United States
go
might
back
be doing
to
the same.
the status quo. So I think Britain is 8 years ahead of France.
For voters that went for Brexit in 2016, the mood's more bitter
A nationalist
than
fantasy.
ever. For
That's
France
really
24's
a
Hervé
smart way
Amaury.
of putting it.
He went to Boston in Lincolnshire, the town in England which voted by the biggest margin to leave the European Union in 2016. He filed this report.
The former Conservative mayor of Boston runs this cafe. Born in Morocco, Anton Danny has lived in the UK for 30 years. Like many here, he's concerned about the town's changing face.
Immigration is the main issue. At the moment, we are not having skilled immigration. We have an influx of people coming from Romania and Bulgaria.
Most recently arrived migrants come legally from Eastern Europe.
Can't say the G word anymore.
Labour, but many gather in the town square, and they're not always welcome.
They're affecting schools, GPs, hospitals.
An election debate at
See,
a local
they
church.
blame all the problems on the
Conservative
immigrants,
MP Matt
even
Warman
though
had a comfortable
that's how it
majority
always
for
works,
9
right? So the failures of the Tory government, right? So sorry, I should look over here. The failures of the Tory government are making everything worse. And who do I blame it on? Well, all these people are coming in. It's got to be them. They got to be the source of all the drainage. It's 1 + 1 = 2. When the numbers don't back that up, that's simply not the case. It's the failure of the Tory government to fund these institutions. Just like the conservatives in the United States. They say government is broken, then they get in charge, and then they break government, and they say, "See, I told you, it's broken." The G word, no, don't look at me. Yeah, the G. It's a. I think Twitch would probably consider it a slang term. We'll say Quasimodo's girlfriend was a G word.
Years, but his record is now being challenged.
I just don't feel safe walking out, which I think
He faces tough questions from a woman who blames immigration for feeling unsafe.
there is no police presence. So why has it not been done yet, and what will be done?
Well, look, I suppose what I would say is since I was elected, the police numbers in this constituency have gone up.
Appealing to those who fear immigration, Reform UK is the main challenger.
Reform UK. Vote time.
To boost the chances of the local candidate, Richard Tice, leader Nigel Farage came to town.
The grifter party.
Reform have gone from expecting to win
Think of Romanian nomads.
to 18 seats.
Ah.
On our way.
Farage's
Romanian
campaign has
nomads.
been
Okay, thank you.
polarising. Reform UK campaigners were recorded by British television
Welcome back,
making
strategy
racist
member.
and homophobic
And Ken
comments. Raffaella Stefani comes from a family of immigrants, but she supports reform.
We are absolutely.
Let me know if the
against
volume's
any
fucked
form
up.
of racism, discrimination. Our immigration policies are not about us at all. It's more about sort of controlling the numbers.
The Labour Party candidate is a former soldier and a teacher who grew up in this deprived area. On her campaign trail, the focus is on healthcare.
I'm speaking to people on the doorstep who cannot get a doctor's appointment. The Labour Party have pledged to start tackling that in week 1.
From July the 5th, Labour is likely to be running the country and will be expected to keep their campaign promises.
Watch 5 seconds. 5 seconds after losing, the Tories are going to start blaming everything on the Labour government. Like literally 5 seconds, like in the concession speech, be like, "Can you believe how bad everything is right now under a Labour government?"
And that report from Boston and Lincolnshire. Julian Nundy, there you have it. You have what used to be the UKIP party talking about immigration being this.
All right, so this debate is fascinating, but let's not, I don't want to, do the whole 1 hour that I have on this one debate. So let's see what else we got when we type in UK elections here into the Googs. Last minute deals thwart right-wing win. Is that in France? Oh, that is interesting. We definitely need to talk about that because the right-wing resurgence. So that's interesting. last second deals are thwarting the right wing from taking more power than really they should. I mean, hey, that's politics. If the right wing had that power, they'd be doing it. So here you go. It's dirty. It's a dirty business, politics, isn't it? All right, we got this, this live footage of a polling place. Like, okay, literally just live footage of 10 Downing. Is there literally any other thing you could be pointing the camera at? This is so pathetic. I hate it when news channels do that. Like, there's probably news happening in some places. You don't have to just sit your camera in front of 10 Downing or in front of a fucking Trump's podium and just wait for the news to happen. Like you're an animal trapper or something. Okay, CTV News. Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at this one.
Residents in the UK will be at the polls tomorrow to vote in a general
Whoa,
election.
look at this shirt.
Political analysts
Love
are
it.
saying the main opposition party, the Labour Party, are on course to win against Rishi Sunak's Conservatives. And joining us now is Benjamin Butterworth, a journalist with
Yo, Butterworth in the house.
Benjamin, thanks very much for joining us today.
Good to be with you, Roger.
Well, they're heading to the polls tomorrow, and it looks like 14 years of Conservative Party power in power.
Finally.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't just look like the Conservative Party is to lose to the opposition Labour Party. In fact, the polls are so
notoriously dry
and quite consistent that it looks
That's
like it
news.
could be the end of the Conservative Party.
Good.
So the Tories currently have about 350 seats in Parliament, and
If you
many
want a
of the polls are
non-derogatory
predicting
for
that they could
Roma,
have just
Roma,
50
okay,
or
Roma.
60 MPs
Thank you,
tomorrow.
strategy.
This is expected not just to be a change
I appreciate
of government,
that, Roma.
but to be the biggest shift in
That's a beautiful
parliamentary
word.
politics in Britain for 200 years. In fact, the only modern Western example of what is expected to happen in the UK tomorrow, and the one that political geeks are obsessing over right now, is Canada in 1993. I
Yeah.
think that's the only comparison of a Conservative Party being wiped out as it fights with a party to its right, which is the one you just had him on your screen there, Nigel Farage, who is a hardline right-wing Eurosceptic that has split the right-wing vote and is expected to see Keir Starmer, the Labour Party leader, become Prime Minister in maybe 36 hours.
So you're talking about them being wiped down to 50. Would they still have party status at that point? Have they ever seen themselves at that level or even close to it?
No, not even close. This would be the worst result in 200 years.
Yeah,
which
dude.
is when there was a seismic
Hell
change
yeah.
in British politics.
Well
Now,
deserved.
it is unlikely but plausible that they might
Well
not even be the
deserved.
second biggest party. Now, for context, the UK Conservative Party has won more elections than any other Western political force. And
Yeah.
a lot of this is because we've had...
And I've been thinking how ironic this is, actually, because UK's this is exactly what should be happening to the right wing party in the United States. They should be getting punished, severely electorally if democratically these systems were working properly, if more people were participating, of course, but also if the Republicans weren't doing everything in their power to game the system. And like with the gerrymandering, we've talked about it so many times about what they're actively doing to change the election systems locally in their states that they have control over. Basically, trying to institute rules. If they don't like the results, they can change them. In different states are doing it in different ways, but they're basically putting in fail safes that allow them to change democracy. So they're attacking democracy when really they should be. Democracy should be attacking them and punishing them for being, so bad at what they do. And same thing, honestly, with the neoliberals as well. If they hadn't worked so hard to prevent democracy from happening, to prevent Bernie and other parties and everything from participating, which they worked so hard to do. So it's really encouraging in the UK to see that the Conservative Party is losing and they're not attacking the democratic systems. They're accepting the results. They're probably, going back to the drawing board and saying, okay, we're going to have at least the next 10 years of Labor government, maybe 5 years if these guys really suck, but that's highly unlikely, so they're going to have to actually change their policies. As a party, they're going to be forced to change. To fit, they're a round peg, square hole right now, and they gotta figure out how to fit into this hole, right? So they're gonna hit that old chalkboard. hit that old drawing board and see what they can do. That's how democracy is supposed to work, and it's actually really encouraging. It's also incredibly ironic because America was founded to escape the monarchy, and here we have, I mean, in clear, stark terms, the UK democracy objectively stronger, objectively, uh, uh, more robust than the American democratic system, which is currently, I have to admit, getting it was never that strong with the Electoral College. It was always wishy-washy with the duopoly, right? But now it has really been fractured, and we are seeing it like a Jenga tower, right? Disintegrate in front of us and just about ready to topple over. We'll see what happens once, if we get a Republican authoritarian dictator in here, if we'll even, get the Electoral College, as disgusting as it is. So I was just really thinking about that last night, just how, in comparison right now, and how ironic that is, right? It started off as a monarchy, turned into a, what is it, a constitution, not a constitutional, oh, there's a word for what the specific system that you guys have. It doesn't come to mind at the moment, but you know what I'm saying here. Like, it's just incredibly ironic where you guys started, what you guys are now, and compared to the American system, which is getting just, dismantled right in front of us. And if you think for a goddamn second this isn't going to affect you, and I'm not trying to call anybody out, right? But if you think for a motherfucking millisecond that, having your ability to vote and have your ability to change your political representative, to have your ability to choose your political representative, even, how that will change your life, if you can't see it, then just take my word for it. What can I say? Democratic Republic. Oh, I thought there was a more robust or, complicated word for it, but yeah, I'll take that. Democratic. It's all, democracies. But you get my point. It's just incredibly ironic where you guys started, where you guys are now, compared to what's happening in the United States, which is objectively, like I said, being dismantled, or dissolved, whatever word you want to use. It's becoming weaker. The Electoral College was already terrible, but it's under attack. What in the? He's got a motherfucking gramophone. What the fuck? Hold on. Homeboy's name is like Butterworth or Butterbean, Butter something. Dude has a legitimate gramophone. Guy rocks.
Brexit, which hasn't worked out so well. The UK economy has been flatlining. Growth has been about 0%.
Yeah, quick double
We've had
tap.
negative
Want
growth
a
for several
refund?
quarters. And we have had 3 prime ministers in the last 5 years under the Conservatives. So there's a very real anger. And the trend you're seeing is that in constituencies across the UK, people will vote for anybody but the Conservatives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Usually the Labour Party.
Anybody
now, the Labour
but.
Party is centre-left. It's probably nearer the Liberals than the NDP, to put it in Canadian terms. But you're also seeing people that would never vote Labour are voting for parties to the right of the Conservatives. And so that's why it looks like it could be the biggest shift that we've had in British politics in a long time.
Now, with assuming Labour wins this, does anything change towards Brexit? Have they made any talk about trying to get back with the EU, or is that kind of a done deal and they won't touch that?
So Keir Starmer was very much against leaving the EU at the time of the referendum and in the previous parliament. He's the Labour leader. However, they've been very clear that they're not going to put Britain back in the EU, and they're not going to open freedom of movement, which was the rule that meant people could pass between EU member countries
like the
without having to get a right to live in that country in the first place.
You're acting like the Tories,
bro. There won't be major changes on that. But I think a lot of people in the markets are expecting other things like market integration, rules being aligned, Tories, laws, standards in things like food production, that they will be more aligned. And I know that a lot of EU leaders are expecting a much better relationship between
Same way with the USA. I guess we'll see.
If the Conservatives leave government. But it is one of those things that is the reason Labour lost so badly.
A lot of people really want this
is
dictatorship.
Because a lot of working class white people that usually
volume. I don't know why it just went up. Sorry.
Rejected it because they didn't like the EU. They didn't like the establishment. So Labour hasn't pledged a major change on that. The biggest change they're proposing is to build a lot more housing. We have about 4.5 million houses that are needed to be built in the UK. House prices are astronomical, particularly in the southeast and in London at the moment. And so they're planning to rip up greenbelt rules around the countryside to get more houses. And I think that's probably the significant change you'll have. But Keir Starmer has been extremely careful not to scare the horses, as it were. So it's not like a radical left-wing leader is coming in or a significant change. But I think people are sick of the chaos that I think everyone around the world has noticed the UK has been in for the last couple of years.
Okay, Benjamin, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Benjamin Butterworth is a journalist.
Butterworth with the
iNews.co.uk.
gramophone. I live in Canada. I'm a current permanent resident here
now,
in
no
Canada.
one is
Whoa,
pushing me out. I'm
loud.
not leaving. I'm in this race to the end. That from the US President Joe Biden as he's vowing to stay in the 2024 US presidential.
Yeah. We'll get to Biden. What a fucking disaster. But no, I live in. Yeah, I live in Canada. Whoa, bro. Yeah, so I live in Canada. I'm a permanent resident in Canada. I'm trying to become a citizen. I'm currently studying for the tests. I need to be studying a whole lot harder, I can tell you that. All right, so I got about 20 minutes left, and then I got to get rolling. So we got about time for maybe one more video. Let's go in here. But you can see why, my hands are full. I got to play with him because it's good for his development. He's blind. He's visually impaired. He can't see. So his development is a little bit stunted. So I gotta work with him, and we gotta exercise. Biden better start legalizing weed. Yeah, no, Biden, just like with the Tories and the Labor Party, Biden is objectively better than Trump. But that doesn't really mean much when he is incapable of actually fighting back against the fascist right wing. Here we go. Polling station. Okay, live, and it's just what is that? What is that? I should know that. I should know that building. My geography skills are terrible. That's always like one of the ones I suck at trivia. That stupid board game. What is it? Trivial something or other. See, I can't even remember the name of the goddamn board game. Oh, Jesus. Okay. All right. Jumpy time. All right. Hold on. All right. I don't mean to be. Okay, sorry about that. I just put him in his little jumper there. He'll be able to jump on his own. Okay, so we got time for one more video before I got to get rolling to the doctors here for William, or I mean Zaphoid, or Zaphid. Disastrous poll ratings. Yeah, let's look at some polls. I want to, let's see.
Now to the United Kingdom, where voters are due to deliver a verdict on 14 years of government by the centre-right Conservative Party. All polls point to deep dissatisfaction with the current government under Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and predict a strong win for Keir Starmer's centre-left Labour Party in tomorrow's poll.
Yeah, no, it was Trump and McConnell that have been that's responsible for legalizing weed. Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. My goodness. I mean, I'm going to need to see a link on that one.
Parliamentary elections. DW's Charlotte Chelsom-Pill reports.
To form a new government
will be the mission of the government I lead.
5 prime ministers, 14 years of Conservative government. Now the UK appears to be heading for change, with Sir Keir Starmer's centre-left Labour Party on course for a historic victory.
All we ask now, humbly, is the opportunity to change our country and put it back in the service of working people.
Bye.
Just 5 years
Bye,
ago,
Tories.
under Boris Johnson, the Conservative Party were unbeatable. But a series of scandals and criticism over its handling of COVID and the economy have seen its popularity plummet. Rishi Sunak's election campaign, plagued by missteps, hasn't helped.
He can't
Starting
get
with
a break. I love it.
Is the moment for Britain to choose its future.
I love it. He can't get a
The
fucking
Prime Minister
break.
calling the election in the pouring rain.
or risk going back to square one with no plan and no certainty?
Sunak's party is now 20 points behind Starmer's Labour Party. For its part, Labour's fighting to prove it has a credible plan and can be trusted with the economy. And few are excited by its leader.
Take a look at the polls and you will see a country that's hungry for change. But speak to people here on the streets and you'll find the mood's actually pretty bleak. Trust in politics is low and dissatisfaction running high, leaving many here unconvinced that change will come.
I don't think anyone's got any real faith that...
All right, I mean, look, I'll just take your word for it there, drone pilot. I mean, are you actually trying to insinuate that the Republican Party is the party that wants to legalize marijuana, that they are the pro-freedom, pro-liberty party? Is that what you're trying to insinuate, or is it just like a fun fact? You know, because we're talking about two very different things here, really. I'll just take your word for it that some hemp was legalized or some sort under the Trump administration. Sure. No, they didn't. Cannabis is not legal federally. And a farm bill that legalizes hemp is totally different. THCA weed. You mean THC? It's the hemp definition is the same weed you've always been smoking. Doesn't sound like you smoke weed, because everybody who smoked weed knows that you don't smoke hemp. There's a classification, a certain amount of THC, a very, 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 very small amount of THC for it to be considered hemp. You can't have a certain amount. If you go over that threshold, they don't consider it hemp. You don't smoke hemp. What are you smoking? And like, I'm not insinuating anything. I'm just saying, bro. I'm just saying, bro. What other questions are you going to ask? And let me guess, you're totally pro-Israel, destroy Palestine, right? Can we just cut to the chase? You're pro-Israel, destroying the Palestinian state, right? I definitely smoke weed. I know what I'm talking about.
That whichever party comes in next is going to make a massive impact.
Yeah, Trump and McConnell legalized weed already, guys.
Amongst a bad bunch. I'm afraid politics in the UK.
Drone pilot, do you know what the term myopic means?
It has been pretty badly served ever since we made the bad decision for Brexit.
I think the Conservative Party have done a lot of things wrong, and I don't think they're going to. I don't think a lot of people are going to forgive them.
Doesn't matter that you're
watching this
factually
election,
incorrect, right?
but foreign policy is
Just gonna
not
keep
at the
hammering
centre of
away,
the fight.
right?
Welcome, my friend.
With little difference between the main parties on issues like Ukraine. Polls show the economy, migration and healthcare are people's top concerns. The UK is facing a cost of living crisis. Migration figures have hit record highs in recent years, and the health service is struggling under the pressure of massive waiting lists. When the election results come in, people will also be watching Nigel Farage,
Good morning, everybody.
the architect of Brexit, and his anti-immigration Reform UK party.
Can't believe this motherfucker's
They've
back,
seen
dude.
a surge in support, which could shape the
Go
future
away.
of Britain's political landscape.
The big question is whether they take a lot of votes off the Conservatives to the point
No strategy.
where
Trump
Britain's
already legalized
oldest
weed,
political
bro.
party, the Conservatives, is shrunk down to not even being the main opposition.
Whoever forms the next government
Yeah, just
faces
real.
a long
Yeah.
list of difficult challenges.
Big time. People are
not
sick of
least
it.
restoring the faith of a weary public.
And after 14 years of Conservative government, Thursday's vote is expected to deliver a landslide victory to the centre-left opposition Labour Party. Even Prime Minister Rishi Sunak seems resigned to the idea of losing power. Visiting a school in the final day of the campaign, he urged voters to prevent what he called a Labour supermajority as poll after poll predicts one of the biggest.
It's actually fascinating to see the Tories fearmonger like this. There's the camera. It's actually hilarious to see the Tories fearmonger like this, using this, these supermajority, term, which is a very United States oriented term. Like, I don't think it actually exists in UK politics. You guys have a parliamentary system. So it doesn't even really make sense. It's just straight up fear mongering. Hey, greetings from south of Boston, Lenny. I got about 10 more minutes of the stream left, but it's good to see you, bud.
Election landslides in modern British history.
Yeah, I'm
working very hard until the last minute of this campaign.
Drone pilot, you seem to intentionally be, you know, forgetting or just ignoring the fact that Republicans absolutely want to legalize weed. It's in Project 2025. It's pretty clear. There's all kinds of politicians all over the place. It's ironic. You kind of sound like Joe Rogan a little bit, right? Joe Rogan over here talking about, oh, I moved to Texas, you know. Meanwhile, he's talking about supporting politicians like Ron DeSantis in Florida, who absolutely are promising to ban weed or are trying to or doing whatever they can to ban marijuana. I assume you're just intentionally forgetting about that stuff. Yeah, and there it is. And there it is. Right. Why are you wasting your time here? What are you trying to achieve with your gaslighting? You know, I know you got a whole set of alternate facts, right? I get it, but I'm just curious what you're trying to achieve because you're my stone cold. You're my fucking enemy, dude. You know, you're gaslighting in favor of a fascistic dictatorship right now. You know that? You're doing everything in your power for free, by the way, traipsing around the internet for free. You're not getting paid for this shit to spread misinformation, to spread doubt in our democracy. And of course, with the end result being installing Donald Trump, a straight up fascist dictator. No, you're not saying, you're not even close to the truth. And that's the thing. Like you're working as hard as possible. You're working as hard as possible to convince everybody up is down and left is right and black is white to install a fascist dictatorship. See what I'm saying? You're a very dangerous person. You're doing this for free. You feel motivated. You want this authoritarianism in your life. Somehow you think it's going to benefit you. You're a frightening man. And like, you know, I don't understand what your motivations are because once this fascist dictatorship is installed, once Trump has gotten your vote, he's going to throw you away. He's going to put you right in the dumpster. Your boss is going to be able to exploit you more. More poisons are going to be entering your water and into your food, more feces into your food as regulations are lifted. Your general day-to-day is going to get more dangerous. Clarence Thomas is now talking about, removing assault weapons bans federally, doing a Supreme Court ruling that would remove the ability for New York and California to pass their own individual assault weapons bans. I know that's not a problem in Texas there, right? So, you're a very scary and dangerous person that you would be running around on the internet for free on some nobody's stream, encouraging this, gaslighting narrative. It's very, very dangerous and very, very frightening, and you just might get what you want. You just might get your fascist dictatorship. And let me tell you, you will literally be eating shit because of it. So, I look forward to it. Welcome back, Woke Patriot, and everyone else that's here. Thank you for being here.
Paying for every vote, and
they want to bring back child labor. They want to bring back child marriage.
Yesterday was a long day because I really believe lots of people have not made up their mind.
Oh,
and
shut the hell up with your fake ass smile.
Before the polls
I've never been convinced of a smile from him.
And it's a very simple choice.
I've never been convinced of a smile from him.
Your pension protected, our border secure, and you want to prevent that Labour supermajority, then vote Conservative.
Don't waste your time, strategy.
Will make a difference. Lots of people want to say this is a
strategy. Don't waste your time. This individual that you are engaging with understands that he is wrong. He considers victory the time you spent to try and convince him otherwise. He doesn't. Facts don't matter to people like this, right? We go back to Sartre. It's all about what Sartre said about the anti-Semite, right? They're playing a game. They don't have to work within the confines of reality like we do, and they play with language, right? So don't waste your time. This individual knows he's being pedantic. He knows he's being myopic. It's some game, and he thinks he's winning the more time we spend on him. So you just get back to it, okay, strategy?
A foregone conclusion. Analysis shows that's not true. Your vote can make a difference to preventing that majority.
In fact, we're going to go ahead and just get rid of this distraction.
So get out there and vote Conservative.
I don't have time for it.
Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has been crisscrossing Britain as he wrapped up his campaign. He urged voters in Scotland to choose a new government.
This election is all about change. the chance
to
turn the page and start to rebuild. That is what tomorrow is all about. It's a stark choice. We've had 14
that manifesto
years
depends way too much on
chaos,
growth,
of division and failure in Westminster.
Well, despite Labour's lead in the polls, polls have also found that public trust in politics
I only timed
is
him
low
out, so he'll be able to fill my chat with
high.
gaslighting
In
and
one survey,
misinformation in 10 minutes.
of people said they trust cabinet ministers to tell the truth. That's left people wondering whether voting will change anything.
I don't think anyone's got any real faith that whichever party comes in next is going to make a massive impact.
It's a matter of choosing the best amongst a bad bunch. I'm afraid politics in the UK has been pretty badly served ever since we made the bad decision for Brexit.
I think the Conservative Party have done a lot of things wrong, and I don't think they're going to... I don't think a lot of people are going to...
Andrew Blick is
Why
Professor
you gotta cut
of
him off
Politics
like
and
that? That's
Contemporary
fucking
History
rude.
at King's College London.
Well, you didn't have an
He also
extra
heads its
3 seconds to
political
let him
economy
finish his
department.
fucking sentence?
Joins us from London.
Who
Welcome
cut that?
to DW. Why is this election expected to be such a
Way to cut him off,
landslide for the
dog.
centre-left Labour Party, who are currently in opposition?
Well, simply because Labour
right,
are
sure.
going
Well,
to
we
be,
got about
by
5
the look of
minutes
it,
left here.
amassing the number of votes.
Andrew Blick doesn't look that interesting to me. You know, I assume he's an incredibly smart, eloquent person there. We're not going to make comments on his appearance. Oh, the big room's back. Hey, good to see a big room. It's good to see everyone back. Sorry, as soon as I'm like I said, we'll be doing a follow-up once I get back from the doctors and everything. Get fucked, UK. Well, no, Davey, you know, it's funny that you show this image here, because I was just talking about how the UK democracy is objectively more robust and strong than the American democracy right now. Because what's happening in the UK with the Tory party, and I'm sorry to repeat myself, but Davey just looks like he just got here. But what's happening with the Tory party is exactly what should be happening with the Conservatives in the United States. The Tory party failed in all of their various promises and experiments, you know, with Brexit, et cetera, and they're being punished democratically, electorally, with one of the worst, you know, blowouts in their history, it seems, in like a century, if some of the polls are to be believed. And what they are doing, they're not denying the results. You know, they're not attacking the institution. You know, they're not setting up, you know, a Project 2025, the Tory version. You know, they're accepting the results, and they're probably going to have to, you know, go back to the drawing board and lick their wounds and change as a party if they want to, you know, become relevant again. But in the United States, what are the Conservatives doing? Well, they're electorally, they've never been more unpopular. And you follow the numbers, so you know non-voters, you know, that are not counted usually in those estimates, you know, hate the Conservative Party. Sure that they don't like the neoliberals in the left, they don't participate or vote. But, you know, a very small minority of people supporting this Republican Party. But anyway, what do we see this Republican Party doing? Instead of accepting the results democratically, they're attacking the institutions and trying to change them in whatever state that they have control in, disintegrating and pulling apart our democracy, not accepting the results. So, you know, it's, you know, you show this image here of George Washington, you know, fucking suplexing or whatever, the King of England or whatever, the monarchy. And I find it ironic because this is where they started, and this is where America started, right? With like liberty, freedom, democracy. And America has fallen so far, our democracy has shattered so thoroughly that this image doesn't really hold any truth in the modern era, does it? It's in fact the exact opposite right now. So, you know, the American exceptionalists need to pull their head out of their ass, quite frankly. And I'm not trying to call anybody out, just saying in general, you know, USA, American #1, need to pull their head out of their ass because, you know, the things that make America great, the things that make America exceptional are being destroyed. So MAGA kind of coming, you know, it's interesting to see the conservatives use this both sides argument. They need you to be cynical. They need you to be disengaged because they understand that that benefits them. So they instinctively go to this both sides, both sides, both sides. Oh, well, it's both sides. You shouldn't even bother trying. You shouldn't even bother trying to change. It's both sides. Didn't you know it's both sides, though? Labor's just like the Tories. No, the fuck they're not. And the neoliberal Democratic Party is not just like the Republican Party. They're weak, ineffectual, corporate, corrupt, but they're not just like the fascistic right. Same thing with the Tories and Labor. Oh, they're the same. Why even participate? Why shouldn't you just give up? Isn't the right thing to do just to give up? Because it's like both sides. You should be like cynical about politics like I should be. Yeah, well, that's the great thing about a parliamentary system. Because yes, yeah, look, you don't like the Labor? Go for Lib Dem. Go for the Greens. I agree with that. I think that's great. That's democracy writ large. That's how it works. And what are we seeing? The Lib Dems now coming back in as the party that Labor or the Conservatives maybe are going to have to do a coalition with if they want any kind of real power. So that's great. It's hard to imagine the Lib Dems actually working with the Conservatives, but I think that has happened in the past, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you, Quick Double Tap, for coming in. You're a legend. I do appreciate your support. And everyone, of course, in the chat, you're also pretty fucking sweet. But yeah, no, I am out of time right now. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I am out of time. But I got a very important doctor's appointment. My son's getting a very important medical device that's going to help him learn how to walk. He's basically going to be skipping the crawling stage and going right to the walking. That's what happens when you're blind. You lose because you can't see anything, you don't have that natural curiosity that gets you to like, I want to grab the jingly keys. I want to grab the flashing lights. So we do the best we can to like, that's why I have to play so intensively with him. But ultimately, the crawling stage is usually skipped and we go right to walking. So that's what we're doing. Exciting stuff. Any percent crawl skip. Exactly. I agree with both sides bad. Both sides are good and bad in their own ways. We should balance their power to achieve the best result. Yes, both parties are bad, but they're bad in their own distinct ways. Just because someone is, Tisrael, it's all about nuance. And like, that's, it's okay for normies who, participate in politics like a sports, like a sports team. They always exist in a democracy. It is up to the activist. It is up to the person that is aware, that wants to be aware, that can stomach this stuff, that can swallow it. It's up to that person to make convincing arguments. It is up to us. We can't put all our hopes on a Messiah. We can't put all our hopes on another Martin Luther King. It goes back to that 3-step program, folks. Like I always talk about. Step 1, inform yourself. Step 2, put your name down, sign up to a political organization of your choice, a union, whatever it is. And then step 3, put in the work like Charlie Kirk, put in the work as hard as the fascists are working to destroy our country, to destroy democracy, put in the work to restore it. The only way we will win is if we match that energy straight up. Peace in that motherfucking Middle East and glory to the Ukrainian democracy. We'll be talking about them very soon, hopefully in the coming days, maybe even tomorrow, because I'm going to be playing with the kid there. So maybe we can do a special Ukraine stream because, hey, there's been some really great news on the Ukrainian front line that I absolutely want to talk about as well. So thank you to all my regulators in the chat. And thank you, to everybody who supports the News Underground, especially Lenny. You can't save America without putting America first. But, it sounds like you're supporting the fascist churn, the authoritarian churn that America is flirting with the Republicans and Donald Trump. Putting America first doesn't mean destroying the institutions that make America great, that make America what it is, the strong democracy that has made America so strong and powerful. If you destroy those elements, you actually destroy the thing that makes this country great, which is the exact opposite of what these Make America Great MAGA freaks claim that they want, right? But I guess that doesn't matter. I guess we got to have that fascist dictatorship before we realize that we don't want it. The question is, how much damage can they do, and is anyone willing to reverse it? Does anyone have the political balls to reverse it? The neoliberals don't have the political balls to do it. So, hey, thank you, Lenny. Appreciate it. Thank you. And hey, positive vibes back to you, bud. Anyway, have a good day, everybody. Sorry, I don't have music to call me out, so we're just gonna kill the stream really abruptly. Thanks again, everybody. Have a good day. Yeah, he left office. I mean, honestly, I mean, what I don't, the gaslight. You're doing this for free, and you're doing this in the service of a fascist dictatorship, of an authoritarian fascist dictatorship. You're running around the internet on nobody streams, gaslighting people. What do you mean? It was a peaceful. He gave up power peacefully after an attempted coup, right? And we're just supposed to forget that. I think you think we're idiots. I think that's what's going on. It's a game to you. It's some kind of game. You're not going to be satisfied until you get your fascist dictatorship. I get that. So, we'll see you next time, buddy. Bye-bye. See you next time. They'll never be satisfied, right? And the only thing we can do is defeat them politically. I mean, think about it. Look how hard the fascists are working. Do you spend your time going to right-wing streams to argue with right-wingers about the facts about what's right and wrong? No, but the right wing does. They wear it like a badge of honor. They go stream to stream, left-wing streams. Oh, that's actually not real. That's actually this. There's a whole set of facts that I have. I got a whole set of alternative facts. Oh, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. Right? It's not fascism. It's not fascism. It's not authoritarianism. They're not attacking our democracy. You got to put America first. You got to put America first. My definition of that is install a fascist dictatorship. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Are you doing that? Is the left doing that? No, but the right is doing that all over the place. I can't put my stream online without right-wingers coming in and giving us their alternate reality, right? And insisting upon it. No matter how much I could have pulled up 16 articles proving that person wrong, digging into it, and the whole time he would have been nope, fake news, bad source, fake news. Working as hard as he can to gaslight as many people into thinking that this fascist pile of shit is going to somehow lead to freedom. Are you working that hard? Right? Are you working that hard? Maybe we should. Maybe we should be working that hard because they seem to be pretty effective. Last time I checked, it's 50-50. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, basically. With Donald Trump pulling ahead in a lot of these polls, but you can't really trust these polls. They're still using landlines in some of these fucking polls. Can't trust them. Not right now. But it's basically 50-50. And that should frighten everybody. All right. Peace in that motherfucking Middle East. Glory to the Ukrainian democracy. Fuck you, fascists. See you next time. Thanks again. News Underground. Thank you.